November 30th, 1943, 22,000 feet, over Rangsdorf, Germany. It starts with a shudder, not wind, not turbulence, power, different power, Merlin power. Captain Don Gentile shoves the throttle forward on his new P-51B, and the Rolls-Royce built Merlin 61 variant howls like nothing Detroit ever issued. The nose lifts, oxygen mask biting into his cheek, canopy frosting at the edges, fuel pump whines, gun switches click hot. Below him, streaks of silver and fire, B-17s holding formation under flak bursts, losing one every 45 seconds in this sky, on this month, according to the 8th Air Force loss sheets. Ahead, 109s, tan mottled and lethal, diving on the bombers like hawks. Gentile breathes once, calmer than he expected. "This engine," he mutters into the mask. "This beast." He squeezes the trigger. 50 cal bursts hammer through vibration. A Messerschmitt shatters, smoke rolling off a snapping wing root. Somewhere, ground crews in England are wiping oil, swearing at timing marks. And one stubborn engineer already knows this moment will vindicate every night spent defending a foreign idea on American soil. March 1942. Wright Field, Ohio. The hangar smells like new aluminum and stale coffee. Tool trays rattle as technicians walk past rows of experimentals, P-47s, P-38s, something British looking under canvas. James H. Jim Kindleberger, North American Aviation president, strides down the line fast enough that young engineers trot to keep up. Beside him, Ronald Harker, Rolls-Royce test pilot on loan, carries a folder stuffed with data sheets and flight notes, and behind them, half a pace off, stands Edgar Schmued, Austrian-Brazilian engineer, German accent still sharp after years in American factories, slide rule tucked like a pistol at his belt. The P-51 prototype waits ahead, sleek, fast in dives, but hobbled by the Allison V-1710. Great low, gasping high, engineering reports don't lie. At 25,000 feet, it fades where the war now lives. Harker flips a page. The Merlin 61, two-stage supercharger, tested on the Spitfire. Your airframe, Mr. Schmued, it wants this. A whisper of skepticism moves through the room. Foreign engine? Foreign idea. Patriotism mixed with pride and procurement fear. Schmued doesn't flinch. His voice is soft, but steel-edged. "You don't win air war with pride," he says. "You win with power." The room shifts. Even Kindleberger pauses. Outside, air raid sirens from a drill echo faintly. War is coming fast, and England's reports are already showing a need. Long-range escort, not short-range ego. But swapping hearts in wartime machines? That's how careers break, or how legends start. Test note, Wright Field board minutes. Potential performance, if paired with Merlin, is extraordinary, but industrial and political complications are considerable. A mechanic coughs. A fluorescent buzzes. Schmued touches the Mustang's nose. "Let them call it foreign," he says under his breath. "We are building victory, not passports." And somewhere over Europe, bombers are already dying for lack of the engine this quiet man demands. Tomorrow, brass will ask if loyalty means engines or lives. April 1942, Inglewood, California, North American Aviation plant. Air hammers stutter. Riveters punch metal like artillery on a steel battlefield. Women in bandanas feed skins into presses. Fabricators weld frame ribs till they glow orange. Schmued moves through the chaos like it's church. He stops at the Mustang jig, hands hovering over forms, eyes scanning shape. He knows every stress point, every curve. Smith, one of his lead fitters, wipes sweat from his forehead with a sleeve already blackened with grease. "You're serious?" Smith asks. "We're ripping out the Allison?" "Not ripping," Schmued corrects. "Replacing, refitting, reinforcing the firewall, fuel delivery changes, Cooling redesign. Smith whistles low. For a British engine, a pause, that same patriotic tension. American workforce, foreign steel, Schmued answers without heat. Air molecules do not salute flags. We engineer for altitude, not nationality. Clipboard in hand, he sketches a modified radiator duct outline. Meredith effect, compressing hot air, turning drag into thrust. It's elegant, dangerous, necessary. Across the floor, a foreman yells for an acetylene cart. Someone drops a case of bolts that scatter like spent casings. The plant is war, built in rivets and blueprints instead of trenches and blood. A telegram runs down the line. 8th Air Force bomber losses climbing. Escorts turning back at the German border. The numbers hurt. Real young men hurt more. Schmued pockets the paper. Every day delay is a plane that won't come home. By mid-month, technical drawings fill 3 tables. Cooling system modifications. Engine mount reinforcement specs. Fuel line rerouting to accommodate the Merlin's different flow characteristics. Each change ripples through other systems. Cowl shape, weight distribution, center of gravity calculations. Nothing is simple. Everything matters. The first Merlin engine airframe arrives tomorrow, and nothing in this plant fits it, yet. May 1942. Prototype hangar, Inglewood. The Merlin 61 sits on a crate like a captured beast. Black crankcase, wide belt drive, double superchargers like twin lungs built for thin air. A British technician, Flight Sergeant Wallace, watches American mechanics circle it cautiously. Smith mutters, "Looks like it eats gremlins for breakfast." Wallace grins. "It eats Luftwaffe instead." Schmued climbs onto the test stand framework, sleeves rolled, chalk marking bolt points and mount angles. Sweat streaks his collar. He doesn't care. He's never cared for ceremony, only solutions. Trial mount, misaligned by 1.7 millimeters. He orders shims, fuel line adapters, cowl adjustments to clear the intercooler. The hangar doors rattle in desert wind. Command reps arrive. Clipboards, suspicion, notepads, hungry for fault. Procurement officer Lieutenant Cole. Patterson nods politely but eyes every British label like it's contraband. "You're confident this isn't a romantic idea, Mr. Schmued?" "We test," Schmued replies. "Romance dies quickly under torque." They prime fuel, ground wire down, throttle set, Schmued signals ignition. The Merlin coughs once, metallic throat clearing, then roars. The building shakes. Tools vibrate off benches. Exhaust blasts hot enough to sting exposed skin. Mechanics instinctively take half a step back. Wallace doesn't move, just smiles proud and wide. At 2000 RPM, oscillation smooths into a deep, predatory hum. Schmued closes his eyes. In that sound, he hears survival. B-17s making Berlin and back, pilots seeing sunrise again. Patterson scribbles something tight-lipped. Wallace shouts over noise. She likes the air. Wait until she meets the sky. The test continues through afternoon. Temperature curves, vibration patterns, fuel consumption rates at varying throttle settings. Every gauge watched, every number recorded. By evening, preliminary data suggests what Schmued already knew in his bones. This combination works. The physics don't lie. Next step, flight test. If it fails, this engine leaves in crates. If it works, the war changes. October 26th and 1942. RAF Boscombe Down, England. Cold rain spits sideways. Mechanics pull tarps while engines sputter and cough from wet ignition leads. Test pilot Bob Chilton taxis the first Merlin-powered Mustang prototype, AG348, onto the runway. RAF tech crews and NAA engineers watch. Clipboard men again. Always clipboard men. Schmued stands, arms folded, pulse steady, but stomach tight. Chilton pushes throttle. The Mustang leaps forward like it has been held back its whole life. tail lifts early, wheels up smooth. Climb, straight up like a spit with American bones. At 20,000 feet, Chiltern radios, voice crackling. Gentlemen, she climbs like a homesick angel. Schmued exhales, and then the radio bursts again. Spitfire on my wing. We're going to dance. They turn tests into mock combat, rolls, loops, boom and zoom climbs, operational notes scribbled fast. Sustains power above 25,000 feet. Indicative climb rate improvement near 80%. Handling remains excellent. Chiltern lands hot, brakes squealing, canopy popping open while steam rises from the radiator belly like breath from a racehorse. He climbs out, helmet under arm, grin threatening to crack his face. You built a killer, he tells Schmued, but one RAF officer mutters to another, American plane, British heart, we'll see if Washington signs off. War doesn't wait for paperwork. The data packages ship across Atlantic within days. Performance curves, handling notes, fuel consumption figures, everything documented, everything measured. In Washington, staff officers study the numbers with mixture of excitement and territorial concern. Across the channel, Luftwaffe intelligence reports note increased Allied fighter development activity. German radar operators log new aircraft profiles. The chess pieces move before anyone announces the game has changed. Records later showed performance improvements exceeded even optimistic projections, but numbers on paper mean nothing until combat validates steel. The test isn't enough. Combat will be the proof, and 8th Air Force is bleeding. November 1942. Washington, D.C. War Department offices, wood paneling, cigar smoke, and walls lined with maps and loss charts. General Ira Eaker briefs brass. Bomber crews dying. Escorts turning back at the Rhine. Fighter endurance charts bleak. Across the table, procurement officers eye Merlin program files like they bite. One colonel taps the cover. Rolls-Royce, stamped bold. We build American air power with American engines. Eaker's jaw tightens. We build victories with the best engines. Another paper slides across. Allison engine production contracts, congressional pressure, Detroit factory labor politics. Schmued stands silent at the end of the table. Engineers rarely present here. He speaks when called, not before. General Hap Arnold watches him. You're certain this is necessary? Schmued nods once. Not drama. Conviction. We cannot escort to Berlin without this aircraft. Silence, weight, ego, national pride, intention with blood loss logs. Eaker adds quietly, Sir, our boys are dying. Give them reach. After a long, political breath. Approval. Provisional. Merlin-powered P-51Bs to be produced. Packard-built Merlins in Detroit, licensed to stamp American plates on foreign brilliance. A footnote in the minutes. Public narrative must emphasize domestic assembly. Welcome to War by Committee. Schmued doesn't celebrate. He walks out, shoulders stiff, thinking only of production lines, tooling schedules, coolant flow redesigns. Saving air crews means beating time and politics both. The Packard deal represents compromise, British design, American manufacture. Henry Ford's engineers study Rolls-Royce blueprints, converting measurements from imperial to decimal, adapting British tolerances to American machine tools. By December, first contract signed, production targets set at ambitious numbers, hundreds per month by mid-1943 if tooling proceeds smoothly, if supply chains hold, if labour disputes don't halt assembly lines. Every if carries weight measured in lives. Across the Atlantic, November bomber loss rates climb past sustainable thresholds. Schweinfurt losses still fresh in memory. 60 aircraft, 600 men. Production begins, but the clock runs faster than factories. Early 1943. Inglewood and Dallas plants. The Merlin Mustang is born again and again on 2 continents. Sheet aluminum shaped by sweaty hands, bolts tightened until knuckles bleed, Packard Merlins lowered into cowls while radios crackle with news from Tunisia and the Ruhr. But new power means new problems. Carburation quirks at -G, coolant leaks from overpressured solder seams, early radiator scoop icing in cold climes, engine mount, vibrations, prop governor issues at altitude. Smith shouts over whining drills. Feels like the thing kicks back when she breathes too hard. Schmued chalks a new brace design. He sleeps 3 hours a night, eats from tin lunch trays at his drafting board, writes memos in margins of blueprints. Every fix is life later. A posted report from 8th Air Force Intelligence. Without long-range escort, bomber losses unsustainable by mid-43. He tapes it over his desk. Motivation doesn't need poetry. Plant sirens wail, shift change. Workers stream out. New shift streams in. War doesn't rest. A rivet gun jams. A temp worker drops a canopy and cries from fear she'll delay production. Smith kneels, helps her up, hands her another, tells her she's part of the fight. Schmued sees it, feels it. The weight of every bolt is a man's chance to come home. Technical bulletins circulate weekly. Updated procedures, revised torque specifications, modified parts lists. Field engineers track failure modes, feeding data back to California. Coolant system redesign addresses thermal stress cracking. Carburetor modification kit ships to correct fuel starvation in -G maneuvers. Each improvement incremental but critical. By March, production rhythm steadies. Quality control catches most gremlins before aircraft ship overseas. Most, not all. Across the Atlantic, bases prepare for new equipment. Ground crews attend briefings on Merlin maintenance procedures, different from Allison, different from Pratt and Whitney radials they know. Learning curves measured in hours, mistakes measured in missions delayed. First units shipped to Europe in spring. Their pilots don't know yet what they're inheriting. December 1943, RAF Debden, England. 55-gallon drums, snow slush, the reek of avgas and open pit fires, ground crews cough into scarves, NAA field engineers unload crates labelled P-51B Mustang, Packard Merlin. 8th of deployment, pilots walk circles around the new fighters, sleeker than Thunderbolts, sharper than P-47's Bulldog stance. Lieutenant Cole Thomas J.J. Christian, 361st Fighter Group CO, runs his glove across a wing root like it's sacred relic metal. Gentile touches his Mustang's nose, art outline. Shangri-La soon, but now just fresh green paint. RAF pilot Jock Fraser, visiting, nods approvingly. Treat her right. She'll outrun trouble and hunt it down again. Engineering team briefs ground chiefs. Radiator flap settings. Coolant check every sortie. Carburetor ram air caution. Prop governor maintenance. High altitude mixture discipline. American crew Chief O'Grady grins. She's fast, huh? Fast? The RAF tech says. She dictates combat. Across the field, wounded B-17 crews limp away from trucks, grey-faced, frostbitten, some missing, always missing. Gentile watches them, jaw set. Tomorrow, he flies the new machine. Tomorrow, the air war shifts, if the engine lives up to the promise. The airfield settles into evening routine. Mechanics work under tarpaulins. Flashlights cutting shadows. Someone plays harmonica in distant barracks. The sound carries thin across frozen ground. Schmued's technical manual sits open in operations tent. 37 pages of procedures, limitations, emergency protocols. Officers study performance charts, calculating range with drop tanks, time to altitude figures, fuel consumption at combat power settings. numbers that translate to bombers protected, missions completed, men returning. By midnight, most lights extinguish, Mustangs sit in neat rows, frost forming on canopies, propeller blades catching moonlight, silent now, tomorrow, different story, weather clears by morning, sortie schedule posted, Escort, Bremen, December 20th, 1943. Over North Sea, climbing to 25,000 feet, oxygen tick hiss, frost edging goggles, hands stiff in gloves, Mustang engines, thrumming like a cavalry, charge on metal sky. Radio, red leader, bomber stream at 11 o'clock, Angels 2-4. Ahead, formation glitters, endless silver, vapor trails, and the heavy heartbeat of war. At the German coast, flak climbs, black blossoms, blooming death. Radar chatter on Luftwaffe channels will later show surprise. New contacts, high speed, unknown type. 109s and 190s swarm like hornets. Gentile drops tanks, clunk whoosh away and pushes throttle. Merlin surges. The Mustang doesn't climb, it pounces upward. Eker's escorts finally follow bombers deep, not turning back at the iron line of German frontier. A radio burst. Panic from a German pilot. Ami Spitfires mit Langstrecke. American Spitfires with long range. Not quite. Better. Gentile rolls onto a tail. 50 culls roar. A 190 spirals down trailing smoke. Mustangs herd fighters off bombers, then chase stragglers. German ace later reports they could choose the fight, dictate escape. Back on the field, steam lifts from radiators. Ground crews swarm. Gentile climbs down, adrenaline shaking fingers. O'Grady pats the Merlin cowling. How's the foreign heart treat ya? Gentile smirks. Feels American enough at 30,000 feet. Mission reports filed that evening. Note fighter contact at extended range. First time escorts engaged enemy beyond previous operational limits. Loss rates for protected bombers significantly reduced from previous months' averages. In German operations rooms, intelligence officers update threat assessments. New American fighter type, extended range, high performance at altitude, aggressive tactics. Luftwaffe Command begins calculating implications. If Americans field this in numbers, defensive strategy requires revision. By January they'll know for certain. By February the sky won't be theirs anymore. Berlin still waits. High Command draws a circle on maps and writes, "Fighter cover possible?" March 4th, 1944. Mission number 246. Berlin raid, dawn frost, cruise silent, orders blunt, reach Berlin, hit industrial targets, return, no turning back, no excuses, Mustangs fuel heavy, rockets plumage of white breath in bitter cold. Schmued is stateside, reviewing coolant flow tests, unaware he will be quoted for decades about this day. In England, engines cough awake one by one. Gentile checks harness. Christian gives final briefing. Stay with the heavies. Don't get greedy. But God help anything that touches our boys. Take off. Formation. Climb. Radio monotony until the first tone of radar alerts. German ground controllers bark scramble orders. Dozens, then scores. Over Berlin outskirts, flak erupts thick enough to walk on. Black puffs rock B-17s like toys. Then fighters, JG-11, JG-26, seasoned killers. Mustangs dive first, guns flashing, energy tactics. Boom and zoom. No more slow-bleeding turn fights. Vertical battlefield. Gentile scores one, then another. His breathing is calm, mechanical. A B-17 takes a direct hit. Wing shears off. Men tumble in freefall. Parachutes blossom, some too late. Over radio, a Luftwaffe pilot curses, "Where did these escorts come from?" They came from a test stand in California and a drafting desk that never slept. By mission's end, loss rates drop. Far from zero. Far better than doom. Historical record marks the day. First American fighters over Berlin. That evening, Operational summaries note escort coverage maintained throughout mission duration. Bomber losses: 16 aircraft from 730 dispatched, 2.2%, compared to previous Berlin attempts averaging near 7% without fighter coverage. Numbers tell one story, empty bunks tell another. But the mathematics of survival shifted measurably that day. Across the Atlantic, wire services carry headlines. In Inglewood, ticker tape arrives mid-afternoon. Schmued reads message twice, folds paper, places it in desk drawer. No celebration, just quiet acknowledgement. Back in Inglewood, Schmued receives a telegram. Only 4 words. They reached Berlin. Congratulations. He does not smile. He goes back to work. April-May 1944. Debden and European skies. The Mustang becomes legend by repetition, not myth. Pilots learn, keep energy, use dive speed, radiator management in climbs. Don't yank negative G, fuel cut. Pick fights, don't wander. Schmued's memos emphasize radiator door schedules. Ground crews memorize torque settings and spark gap tolerances. Every detail life. Gentile and Johnny Godfrey Rack kills like clockwork. George Preddy hunts with unmatched precision, patience turned into lethality. Bud Anderson treats combat like chess with wings. Records show B-17 losses drop drastically once full Mustang coverage begins. Escort doctrine finally works. Bomber crews start calling them guardian angels with teeth. Pilots still die. War never offers perfection, only percentages. A captured German report notes, enemy new fighter outclimbs and outdives. We cannot dictate engagement. Pride hurts, steel hurts worse. On a hard evening, Gentile sits alone on wing route, staring at empty cots in barracks. Engine ticks, cooling down beside him. He whispers, almost prayer, thanks, Edgar, whoever you are. Across an ocean, Schmued is tightening a screw on another blueprint change. Production numbers climb, 50 aircraft per week, then 70, then 100. Assembly lines operate around the clock. Packard delivers Merlins in steady stream. Supply chains hold despite submarine threats and material shortages. Each plane delivered represents accumulated effort from thousands. Engineers, machinists, assembly workers, truck drivers, railroad crews. Statistical analysis conducted later showed correlation between Mustang deployment numbers and bomber loss rate reduction. April 1944 loss rates 3.5% with full escort. January 1944 without 8.2%. Mathematics of salvation written in decimal points. German fighter pilot effectiveness ratings decline as engagement terms shift from defensive position to reactive scrambling. Luftwaffe loses initiative over own territory. Summer 44 missions grow longer. The Luftwaffe grows desperate. June 1944. D-Day and beyond. Allied invasion. Mustangs sweep beaches, bus trains, chase fighters low over French hedgerows. Merlins strain in dust, sand, and chaotic altitudes. Radiators choke in mud. Some engines fail, others roar, unstoppable. Ground crews patch bullet holes with tin and prayer. Oil streaks like blood across wing routes. A radio call mid-sortie. Engine temp redline. Coolant hit. I'm punching out. Parachute blooms. Another Mustang turns to escort downed friend to fields. Brotherhood forged in aluminum and exhaust. Luftwaffe flak traps claim more. But skies tilt allied. Combat tone raw. No glamour. Just work. Hard, violent work. Schmued walks plant floor, passing racks of cowlings bound for Europe. He signs off on a cooling flap adjustment. Quiet victory. Mustangs strafe columns, fleeing Normandy. They duel desperate Fu-190s clawing for Luftwaffe relevance. German pilot diary later reads, "The ones with the long noses, they never stop coming." And on one landing strip near Caen, A Mustang rolls in with holes everywhere except where it needed to breathe. Crew wipes oil off cereal, muttering respect. Field maintenance reports document battle damage patterns, wings perforated, control surfaces shredded, fuselage punctured. Yet aircraft returned. Structural redundancy and pilot skill-keeping machines airborne despite damage that should ground them. By July, Normandy air superiority complete. Luftwaffe appears in diminishing numbers, often only at dawn or dusk when visibility favours quick strikes. Mustang patrols maintain constant coverage. Ground attack missions increase. Rail yards, fuel depots, transportation infrastructure. Merlins run hot in low-altitude work, coolant systems stressed beyond design parameters. Maintenance crews improvise solutions, scavenge parts, keep aircraft operational through determination and creative engineering. The war's arithmetic continues. Sorties flown, ordnance expended, targets destroyed, aircraft lost. Behind each number, human cost. And human triumph, inseparable. The war's tide shifts, but the cost stacks like ammo crates. Late 1944, Europe and California. Victory feels possible but not promised. Weather cold again, tents rattling. Field chaplains writing too many letters home. Gentile now a household name in Stars and Stripes. Preddy revered. Others gone. Shot down, burned, captured. Some mines never land, even if their bodies do. Maintenance logs thicken, engines replaced on schedules, combat wear brutal on superchargers. Schmued finally visits a stateside field hospital. He walks rows quietly. Young men with bandaged faces, missing hands. Voices hoarse from smoke inhalation. A nurse whispers, "They talk about those Mustangs. Say they got home because of them." Schmued nods once. No pride, just gravity. He returns to drafting room that night, adds a note. Future variant, increased fuel capacity, pilot armor improvement. Even winning machines must evolve. Production numbers for 1944 exceed initial projections. Over 6,000 P-51s manufactured, majority Merlin-powered variants. Packard produces 55,000 engines by year's end. Supply chain that seemed impossible in 1942 now operates with industrial efficiency. Aluminum flows from smelters, components from subcontractors, final assembly from multiple facilities coordinated across continent. Yet each aircraft still represents individual effort. Schmued reviews, field modification reports, notes recurring issues, designs solutions, fuel tank sealing improvements, electrical system reliability upgrades, canopy defrosting enhancement. War never pauses for perfection, but engineering never stops pursuing it. In European theatre, replacement pilots arrive weekly, young, undertrained, eager. Veterans brief them on survival, energy management, situational awareness, when to fight, when to run. Mustang forgives some mistakes, others it doesn't. December brings news. George Preddy killed by friendly fire, mistaken for German aircraft during chaotic engagement, top American ace in Europe. 26 victories, dead from confusion and fog of war. Bar goes silent when announcement reads. Someone sets a beer on empty table. Christmas letters reach units, some unopened. Addresses marked KIA, May 1945. War's end. Mustangs escort the final raids. They fly cover as camps are liberated. They circle airfields where Luftwaffe machines sit abandoned like broken promises. Gentile crash lands, celebrating. War irony spares no one. Preddy dies months earlier. Friendly mistake in confusion. Too many more unmarked in memory. In a quiet Inglewood office, Schmued receives a simple cable. Your aircraft made victory possible. Command. He sits alone, hands folded, eyes closed. Outside, factory workers cheer VE Day. Flags wave. Bands play. A mechanic wipes grease from a Merlin cowling and murmurs, "Hell of an engine." Schmued whispers only to the empty room. It was never foreign, it was necessary. Archive note later. P-51 credited with reducing bomber losses by more than 75% in deep escort missions. Pilots call it the ace maker. Final production tallies show nearly 15,000 P-51s manufactured, overwhelming majority Merlin powered. Aircraft served in every theatre, claimed over 4,900 enemy aircraft destroyed in air combat, statistics that represent thousands of individual engagements, millions of decisions, countless moments where survival balanced on engineering precision. In post-war analysis, military historians identify P-51 introduction as decisive factor in achieving air superiority over Europe. Long-range escort capability enables strategic bombing campaign to continue with sustainable losses. Luftwaffe forced into defensive posture, unable to rebuild losses or maintain training programs. German fuel production disrupted, experienced pilots attritioned, replacement quality declined. Cycle of air supremacy self-reinforcing once established. But Schmued never speaks in grand strategic terms. When asked years later about his contribution, he talks only about problems solved. Cooling efficiency, engine integration, structural loads, engineering, not heroism, solutions, not glory. The Mustang succeeded not from single brilliant insight, but from accumulated thousands of small decisions made correctly under pressure. Final shot, airfield at dusk, Mustang silhouette cooling, metal ticking, wind carrying distant laughter and quiet grief. Victory isn't born in headlines, it's forged in hangars, in sleepless nights, in decisions that defy comfort and flag. A foreign engine in an American frame, not a compromise, a weapon worthy of the lives it saved,